I dissect stories that are making headlines around the world and talk to my guests to compensate for the missing pieces of the puzzle. So join us in real time by sending us your comments or questions via the CGTN page on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Weibo. If you're watching this live on the CGTN application, email us at thepointwithalex@cgtn.com. Let me know what you think. We start our live streaming every Friday at 11 a.m. Beijing time. So get in touch and we just might read out your comments. Last week, we talked about the new national security law for Hong Kong. Here are some messages from our viewers. From Alan Lowe, the hypocrisy of those countries criticizing Hong Kong national security laws are so blindly blatant. Why don't they ever condemn the treatment of black lives in the US, UK, France, and other countries? Why don't they ever condemn UK, how much freedom they had given to Hong Kong pre-1997. From Musa Kaloko, there is not a state without a national law which helps the citizens to live in peace and harmony. The US is meddling into Hong Kong political issues with China is just a way to infiltrate into China's sovereignty. And finally, from Danny Long, why would Hong Kongers give up first-class citizenship to become second or third-class citizens in UK, US, or Australia and subject themselves to racism and discrimination? It's baffling. Well, many thanks to all our viewers for sharing with me your thoughts. Keep them coming, please. Now, the United States has just announced sanctions and visa restrictions in response to so-called ongoing human rights violations and abuses in Xinjiang. So this week, we're looking at Xinjiang, especially recent media coverage on alleged forced birth control against ethnic minorities. An AP report published on June the 29th claims the Chinese government is taking measures to cut birth rates among Uyghurs and other minorities as part of a campaign to curb its Muslim population. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has called the accusations groundless. Before we get to our media critique, some context first. Now, family planning was first introduced in China in the 1970s. It has been the shared responsibility of citizens and the whole society to help lift quality of life more rapidly by limiting the number of newborns. In order to preserve ethnic diversity, however, ethnic minorities, including the Uyghur people, had always enjoyed preferential population policies. In the 4 decades between 1978 and 2018, for example, the Uyghur population in Xinjiang doubled from 5.6 million to 11.7 million. Besides Uyghurs, the population of each of the top 5 ethnic minorities in Xinjiang has more or less doubled too. In southern Xinjiang, it is common to see Uyghur families with 4 or even more children. In July 2017, Xinjiang adopted new measures in line with those for the rest of the country as China rolled out what's known as the second child policy. Now, Han families are allowed to have the same number of children as their Uyghur counterparts, 2 in the city, 3 in the countryside. Yet, increased educational levels and socioeconomic development, just like everywhere else in the world, have also resulted in lower birth rates across the board in Xinjiang. There has been significant progress in the protection of women's rights in Xinjiang in general. In 2003, the mortality rate for mothers were 163 per 100,000. By 2018, that rate had fallen to 27 per 100,000. The gender ratio in high school is basically even, boys and girls. In 1915, Xinjiang had 3,000 ethnic minority cadres. By 2018, that number rose 143 times to 430,000. Half of them are women. But when you read recent reports on Xinjiang, many of these details have been left out. Instead, the articles opt for a narrative of imagination and speculation at best. Now, let me explain what I mean. On June the 29th, a so-called investigative report or article published by the AP put out some sensational accusations against the Chinese government regarding forced birth control in Xinjiang, allegedly targeting the Uyghur population. These are serious accusations on the order of genocide, as this report quotes a scholar at Newcastle University in the UK. These are direct means of genetically reducing the Uyghur population. But underneath the facade of seemingly persuasive sensationalism, there lies the usual gimmicks of bad journalism on top of a political agenda meant to spread misinformation and disinformation about the Chinese political system and leadership. The article claims to be based on government statistics and documents and interviews with 30 witnesses, yet it soon becomes clear that the article is mostly based on a report authored by Adrian Zenz, a German researcher who popularized the idea that 1 million people were locked up in Xinjiang based on accounts of only 8 people. His latest report on birth rate in Xinjiang was funded by the Jamestown Foundation, a conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. One only needs to take a quick read of his 20-odd page report in order to find, well, more questions than answers. For a research report to be credible, certain academic standards should be observed. Evidence must be solid, for instance, the arguments sound, but in his report one just stumbles a tad too often. For instance, he claims that most recently Uyghur regions appear to conceal birth rate data, indicating its increasing sensitivity. Now, for the first time in about 2 decades, Kashgar Prefecture's 2019 annual report does not divulge birth, death, or natural population growth rates. The reason for this is, according to Zenz, apparent. Kashgar's population declined between 2018 and 2019. While this could be due to outmigration, it might also be caused by extremely low birth rates. Can you believe your ears? This is apparent. Such sentences should never have been the language of a researcher. Simply because such details are missing in one annual report, could any serious scholar reach the conclusion that this must have been the result of a forced birth control campaign? Zenz was right about the population of Kashgar Prefecture declining from 2018 to 2019 from 4.63 million to 4.62 million. The difference was around 10,000 people, less than 0.2%. And according to my sources, the number of Han people in Kashgar actually dropped more than Uyghur people. So on what basis could he extrapolate that there was extremely low birth rates among Uyghur women only? Zenz himself couldn't exclude outmigration as a factor either. So the reason is apparent, except that he is only speculating. But sheer speculation is the least bothersome issue in Zenz's report. Next comes sheer fabrication. Zenz uses budget reports of local health commissions in various prefectures as they are obliged to be released as a common practice. Zenz tried long and hard to find bits and pieces of information in these budget reports, coupled with audacious stretches of imagination. He writes, by 2019, Xinjiang planned for over 80% of women of childbearing age in the rural southern 4 minority prefectures to be subjected to birth control measures with long-term effectiveness. He provided a source link, which is the Xinjiang Health Commission's budget report issued on January 29, 2019. But this sentence or such information is nowhere to be found in this budget report. In short, it doesn't take a doctoral's mind to conclude that Zenz's so-called research is very problematic, unable to withstand the scrutiny in the court of law. By the way, both the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal reported a few days ago that 2 Uyghur exile groups filed a complaint with the International Criminal Court in The Hague for alleged persecution of Muslim minorities in Xinjiang. Remember, this is a court that the U.S. government detests profusely, to the extent its Secretary of State Mike Pompeo described it as a kangaroo court. The irony of it all. Back to the AP article, aside from the shoddiness it borrows from the Zenz report, the journalists also violated basic professional rules. When quoting witnesses' account, a journalist is supposed to verify it, at least try to do it as much as possible from a third-party perspective, or at least add something like AP couldn't independently verify the claim. Instead, the article used these accounts to construct a fiction-like story. The sound bites they highlight are all carefully chosen to maximize emotional impact on readers. Very clever gimmicks. The 30 or so interviewees are living outside China. It's obvious what they hold as grudges against the Chinese government. They basically spoke along the same line, just as the analysts quoted in the AP article condemning the alleged practices. But out of the 19-page-long article by AP, there was not one voice from Uyghur people in Xinjiang or anybody who questions the credibility of Zen's research. So all in all, there you have the complete loop. Remember what I said about the US sanction that came out just earlier today. Now, biased news reports based on shoddy research upon which policies or sanctions are rolled out. Can any country in this world swallow such accusations? According to media reports, China is considering suing Adrian Zenz for libel. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, I'll talk to my guests about the media's reaction and coverage and why it matters. Stay with us.
Chatting into her smartphone's camera, or performing a traditional Uyghur dance, live streaming on popular social network platforms like TikTok is a crucial part of Asidam Kiyum's job at the e-commerce service center of Yarkand in southern Xinjiang. She might be a so-called web celebrity, but what she really wants is to promote the specialties of her hometown in this way.
I do a live stream every 2 days, which lasts for 2 to 3 hours. There are about 8 to 10,000 viewers each time, and approximately 60 orders are made.
A large county of more than 1 million people, Yarkand has yet to eradicate poverty. For its many farmers, they struggle to find ways to sell their special products, such as badam, honey, and red jujube. The government-backed e-commerce center stepped in to help them. It's working with local agricultural cooperatives to sell the products online, and it's proving to be a big hit.
Our sales volume has increased by 30% after cooperating with the e-commerce center. I'm very happy about that.
The success of this venture has had a knock-on effect in the county by creating more job opportunities for poor families.
I used to be a housewife. Now I can earn 2,000 yuan working here. Meanwhile, in the past, our badams were sold at roadside stores, but now the cooperative purchases the nuts from my home at much higher prices.
It's just part of the government's efforts to help local agricultural cooperatives sell their products. How to engage all villagers into the cyber world and help them enjoy the convenience of the e-commerce platforms is equally stressed. The center has established more than 200 e-commerce service stations across the county. Villagers can avail of all kinds of online services at these stations, such as paying bills, shopping, and express deliveries. The plan is they can also help farmers find buyers for their fruit and nuts.
I hope through our efforts we can also help locals sell their farm produce online.
The future looks bright, but it seems there are still many challenges to overcome.
Logistics is a major problem. Next, we will build a logistics system integrating the county, townships, and villages. For that, we will first construct a sorting and storage center for express deliveries.
As modern technology and services penetrate deeper into China's underdeveloped areas, it's giving locals a flavor of what they can achieve with a bold vision. It might not be too long before everyone in this county can go online, both for fun and business opportunities.
Edition of Headline Buster brought to you by me, Liu Xin. I'm joined by three guests. They are Liu Yungying, Associate Executive Editor and Chief Commentator of Beijing Review, Aina Tangen, Current Affairs Commentator, and Wang Cong, Chief Reporter with the Global Times. Good morning to all of you, and thank you for joining us. So, again, a long monologue about this report by this German researcher Adrian Zenz, and then the AP article or other article that's based on his report, and then the latest US sanctions, which based, of course, not just on this particular article, but on all of the things that have been reported about Xinjiang concerning its so-called human rights violations and abuses. This is, as I said, I see it as a kind of a loop, you know, how such policies are based and formulated. Liu Yungying, what is your first impression that you could share with us?
I totally agree with your monologue in the first part. And you know what? I can tell you a very interesting line which I came across in this article. And let me read it out to you. It says, 7 former detainees told the AP that they were force-fed birth control pills or injected with fluids. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I think there is no female writer in this so-called investigative report, because they certainly do not know a woman's crusade to avoid getting into pregnancy. Every time when they had, you know, the intercourse, and there are, you know, they are self-proclaimed detainees in a detention camp. And why should they be forced into fed birth control pills? Because there are 2 birth control pills, you know, if like every woman would know. One is before and the other is after. So they are detained in a so-called camps. So I'm wondering if this is a detention camp or a summer camp. I do not know. So, and he mentioned too many things about too many children. I mean, when I saw in his report that a Uyghur family can have 7 children in their family, I mean, this is a huge inequality between the Han majority and the minorities, because in Han majorities, people are currently being allowed to have 2 children. And in the past 4 decades, we're not allowed to have such privilege. So this is unbelievable. And this is even the first time I even came to know this fact. So I am shocked too, basically.
Yeah, a lot of things definitely from many different levels and different perspectives. Indeed, as I said in the very beginning of my monologue, I laid the groundwork for the family planning policy. It has been a basic policy of China. Basically, it played a big role, right, in the development of China, because the number of people were quickly limited. Therefore, the level of quality, the level of living standard were rising relatively, or faster, let's say, on top of the socioeconomic development that was being achieved with the hard work of the Chinese people. So that's a basic national policy. That's political reality. That's socioeconomic reality of China. And yet, as you said, Liu Yungying, the policy has not been even between the Han ethnic minority and the different ethnic the Han ethnic majority and the different ethnic minorities in China. But that is a big background of the whole story. Now we're specifically looking at what has been happening, or what has been alleged to have been happening since 2017, especially that there was this forced birth control campaign against ethnic minorities. Aina, your impression upon reading the AP report and the Adrian Zenz report that the AP report was based on?
Well, I took a look at the sources, and here's the problem that I found. If you go and take a look at who Adrian Zenz is, I think you'll be very interested. There's a very good article by Ajit Singh and Max Blumenthal. Please remember those names, and if you have any questions, go and look at their independent article. They identify that there are 2 organizations, one which both funded by the United States through this NED, National Endowment for Democracy, This was set up after the Iran-Contra affair because the U.S. was doing illegal things, so they decided to bring it out in open and advocate for regime change for any country that did not have a liberal, democratic, capitalist system. So let's take a look at Adrian Zenz. He is a Christian evangelical, extremely conservative. He associates one of his organizations as a direct descendant of a group that fought alongside the Nazis, extremely anti-Semitic. He personally does not believe that women should have equal rights. He believes in corporal punishment, e.g., that you should spank children as necessary, in his opinion. He is not friendly toward the gays or lesbians. He believes it's an affront to God. He has also stated publicly that he is on a mission, quote, from God, to take down the Chinese government. So let us say that any report that comes from him should be questionable. But when you dig deeper, you start to understand that these two entities, one is named the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, it was started in 1984. The other one is the Group Network of Chinese Human Rights Defenders. Both of these groups, as I said, financed by the US government, were the ones that came up with these fantastic stories about 1 million people being detained in Xinjiang in concentration camps. How did they do that? One of them interviewed 8 people, as you correctly identified. The other one interviewed 30 people. All right. These people were carefully chosen by people from the independence groups who want to see an Eastern breakaway Turkestan movement. Both movements that they're sympathizing with have been identified by the UN and by the EU as terrorist organizations. So this is what you have. He created these reports. These reports were then referenced by other entities as credible. All right. He works in a foundation of one. It is licensed to do technical training in Germany, but does not actually produce any graduates. Basically, it is just a channel that funds him and his far-right conspiracy theories. So this is the person who has started these series of reports, which keep being referenced. His report was referenced by the UN as source material. It was then referenced by the Pentagon, then the State Department. State Department then actually referenced the Pentagon report as saying that that's a credible report, although it was based on this false information. So you have a web of lies, deceit, created by 2 entities and an individual who's hostile to China. So going through this, is this a fair report? I don't think that has any credibility.
So the tricky part is I can imagine any individual with whatever background or mission or motivation or funding, having very strong views against some political ideology, doing some kind of report. I can understand that basically, but for instance, the Associated Press to make an 19-page investigative report based on such investigation, that is what I cannot understand. Wang Cong.
Well,
me as well.
Yeah, I know. I'll get back
because
to you.
remember, me as well. Remember, AP. This is a very big, credible news agency in the United States.
I thought
has
so.
won numerous Pulitzer Prizes, and also their best is investigation. So when I first read this story, I had some higher expectations, and that from the 3rd or 4th paragraph where they started quoting these people, especially the Adrian Zenz report. I know this is a total hatchet job that does not even require the slightest does not have the slightest credibility, because as you so eloquently dismantled in your monologue, there's no truth in any of those statistics cited. I myself, I want to add a little bit personal touch to this. I myself is a ethnic group from Southwest China, and I have 3 sisters. The total in the article, they confuse with ethnic minorities and also Uyghurs. there are 55 ethnic groups in China. You have to get that straight first if you want to write a piece about ethnic group, family planning or Uyghur family planning, because they didn't make that specific. And also, my problem is, as you mentioned, it's not Adrian Zins. This guy, everybody knows, is a crazy guy with crazy ideas. He's led by God on a mission against China.
He says he
And
is.
the problem is, he is, yeah, he stated that. And how AP, a credible news agency, or as we thought, a credible news agency, keep using this guy for a investigative piece like this. This is beyond my imagination. And also, it's part of the China-U.S. Relations, which is completely in the downfall at the moment. This is part of that, and also the media. It played a huge role in where the China-U.S. relations is, and if there's nothing can be changed, or if they go out of way to use these kind of this type of reports to discredit China or demonize China, then I think the relationship will not improve anytime soon.
Not just
so
demonize,
this will take more from China too.
It's dehumanized,
yeah, so
right?
This will take,
it's to the extent
that's
that,
right.
And all of the words that were used in this article were tilted in a way to make it sound as if there is no single shred of humanity left in this government, that everything they want to do is to ruthlessly crush on the ethnic minorities. It's everything done in such a subtle way to point to that kind of impression without actually articulating it. Anna, you wanted to say something just now.
Yes, I mean, I always find it interesting that last year there were 200 million Chinese tourists, or tourists in general, who went to Xinjiang. So if you were doing this supposedly big cover-up and ruthless way, why would you invite 200 million people to wander around this area? It's a large area, but surely there would be stories coming back saying that they had noticed something untoward. This year, it's expected that there'll be 300 million tourists. The vast majority, 99%, will come from within China, because you can't go outside of China because of the handling of COVID-19 by other governments. So, this kind of narrative is completely untrue. It's just something, as they said, to make China the other. Now, if you recall, the only book that we know that Donald Trump keeps by his bedside are the speeches of Adolf Hitler. Now, what did Adolf Hitler do? He tried to create others. He tried to dehumanize people.
Yeah.
This is his path to power and keeping it.
Yeah. Let's take a look at some comments that we have received. Let's take a look at this one, for instance. If my editors can pull it up. Okay, here you go, from Jessica Liu. Many negative fake news are just the Western propaganda to demonize China. Most of us can tell the fake from the truth because we have visited Xinjiang many times. We have visited Xinjiang many times and have business partners there. Liu Yiming, your comments.
Well, do we have to engage in every lie they created?
I'd rather not to. Liu, I tell you, I worked till 2 o'clock last night in the morning.
Should.
I'd rather not to. I'd rather focus on some real serious discussions about real problems. About you can have criticism, right? You can have different opinion, but based on credible analysis and evidence, but not. But again, when every other time you have something like this, what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do? I'd rather not talk about this, honestly.
Well, Xinjiang has experienced the most stable period for the past 4 years. And I do not know what these people want. Certainly what they want is not stability and peace. So, and at the border concentration camp in the U.S., people don't even get shelter. and the cameras are not allowed. Actually, Xinjiang invited foreign reporters into the so-called camps, what we call centers, education centers, and they can have their cameras around and see what's going on. But sadly, most of them went back home and using none of the footages what they've got in the re-education center, but instead they went too far to interview someone from Kazakhstan, someone from Turkey. I mean, what is the point of inviting all the foreign journalists into these centers?
I wonder too. Well, it's, when people have doubts, when people don't trust you, they are going to keep these doubts for a very, very long time. It's very, very difficult to bust these misperceptions. I do hope that there will be some benefit of the doubt given to the people of Xinjiang. If not to the local government, but to the people of Xinjiang. For instance, in this AP article, not another voice, not some different opinion from the local Xinjiang people were given. Do everybody in Xinjiang think and believe in the way that Adrian Zenz believes? Wang Cong, very briefly, your observation. Wrap it up, please.
Yeah, I think because all this, not just Xinjiang, Tibet, Hong Kong, the COVID-19 pandemic, what we have seen is a systematic. I don't know if they're coordinated, but a systematic, a campaign, a propaganda campaign against China in every front. So what we've seen in Xinjiang on each lines, Ms. Liu just asked, should we engage every line that they push? We have to put it in a more overall the campaign they're pushing against China, and we want to engage them on a more, I think, more overall approach. Because if you want to push back all these lines, if you want to expose all these lines, it would take more than maybe the entire population
and people
of China,
won't believe,
because
probably.
and people won't believe it. That's the
Right.
problem.
Yeah.
Because they're pushing the world to such a polarized world as the United States, inside
Absolutely.
the United States. So we have to see it more in a bigger picture and engage them on a more broader approach.
Yeah, I hope whoever has the possibility, whoever has the opportunity, go and visit Xinjiang and see things with your own eyes. And by the way, CGTN will also produce a very big project this year live from Xinjiang. Hopefully they will bring you a lot of things that you have never imagined, you've never seen or heard of from Xinjiang. So with that, we come to the end of this edition of Headline Buster. I thank my panelists, Aina Tang and Liu Ying and Wang Cong. And I thank you for having joined us and for having participated in our discussion, if you have. I see you next Friday morning at the same time. Bye for now.
Hello. Welcome to the backstage of Headline Buster. Okay, our show is just ended. Hello, Xing.
Hello.
Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm changing my shoes again.
Oh, okay. High heels again.
High heels. Out of the high heels.
Yeah.
So, how did you like the show? What do you think of the show?
I think that's a very good debate today.
A good debate?
Yeah.
We didn't really have debate. We had people more or less agreeing
Nice
with each
discussion.
other. Yeah, let's. At best, it's you can put it that way. Yeah, we were discussing about the article, the report, and so on and so forth. It's a heavy topic, I tell you. Now I'm feeling very taxed, let's say.
Yeah.
Shall I try to look at...
We also have a lot of comments today.
Do we?
Yeah. You want to read some of it?
Okay, let me try.
Okay, I'm going to show you this way.
So... I see still at 10. China is definitely doing a great job by improving the lives of its people. Go, go, China. Thank you. The message is going, nice show, okay. Of course, there are people who also do not agree with me, shouting slogans. That's just, social media. There are people who thank me. Angelina J thanks back.
Thank you.
What do I think about the treatment of Native Americans in the United States? Do I need to answer that question? I think that's very clear. But China is not putting a sanctions bill on the United States because of its treatment of the Native Americans. Are we doing that? No. But this is what the United States is doing with China. That is the difference. It says no debate, but echo chamber for domestic consumption. Actually not, and this is for an international audience. This is in rebuttal of the many, many, many voices out there that have not reflected the Chinese perspective. Not just the Chinese government perspective, but perspective from the Chinese people and Uyghur people as well. Okay, a lot of great discussion, but there are also people who are saying fake journalists. Love China. This live chat needs a moderator. Too many idiots screaming nonsense. To a certain degree, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, if people are rational, we can have a rational discussion. But if people are just speaking nonsense here, then we can't really talk. Strong, excellent work from Danny Lowe for such messages.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, messages keep coming. Yeah.
Comments keep coming.
All right. There are so many of them, I can't possibly respond. But again, I appreciate the fact that people are online with us, spending this hour every Friday morning. Join our discussion, criticize me or criticize our topic, doesn't matter. Yeah, that's the whole point of social media. That's the whole point of media discussion in this day and age. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If there are no more questions. There are people from New England. Yeah. Great show. Please continue to share more facts about China to the world. Jackson Sen. Always support CGTN. Okay, that's a lot of new and old friends. All right.
Yeah.
I gotta go. A long day ahead.
Okay,
Thank you.
Do you want to end this live? You can cover the lens using your hand.
With my hand?
Yeah. Okay. Bye. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.